Welcome back to Gateways. Idaho is currently celebrating its centennial, and in part of the celebration at Gateways we have invited some gentlemen that have been able to witness a lot of what has happened in Idaho in the last 100 years. We have with us tonight Brother A.G. Smith and Brother Willis Ward. I'd just like to have them introduce themselves. Brother Smith, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you were born and where you've come, how you got to Pocatello.
Well, I was born over in Cassia County in a little town on the Goose Creek by the name of Marion. My father settled there in 1882, and I grew up as a young man, and then as things got a little complicated on the farm, I wanted to go to the big time, so I moved into Burley, Idaho, and then I communicated back and forth to my little town in the of Marion, and where my future wife was working, and I courted her by long distance, and I made a permanent residence in Burley when we were married in 1922. And then in 1924, we transferred to Pocatello. And I worked at 2 or 3 different places here in Pocatello for the first 2 years. And then in 1926, I went to work for the People Store, and I put in nearly 40 years with them. And my baptism was actually at the time of the great 1929 Depression. And it was during this depression that my boss promised me that as long as there was a People Store, I would have a job. And I kept it for nearly 40 years. And then after they liquidated and went out of business, I stayed on with my wife in a small way for another 8.5 years. And in this time, we have both were very active in the church. At the time we came here, the Pocatello estate consisted of 5 wards in the city itself. And in addition, there was Inkham, Tyhee, American Falls, Rockland, and Auburn Valley. And while I broke into the MIA, we made regular trips to all of these little towns. Now today, what a change.
Yeah.
In fact, just last Sunday, I took a little ride out in what we used to call the Tyhee Flats. And I hadn't been out for a ride. It had been a favorite place for my wife and I to joyride. But this Sunday, I was all alone, and I discovered that there almost were as many churches and schools on that Tyhee Flat as there used to be residences.
Now, Brother Ward's familiar with Tyhee Flats. Isn't that where you farmed for a while?
That's right.
Would you tell us a little bit about, you weren't actually born in Idaho, you were born in Utah, but you only lived there for 6 months. So you've nearly lived in Idaho your entire life. Tell us a little bit about your moves through Idaho and the things that you've done.
Well, I was born in Pocatello County, Utah, a little town of Portage, West Portage at the time. And I was born in my grandfather's home, and I could throw a rock from the house into Idaho. When I was 6 months old, then Mother and Dad moved to Snake River, as Bottoms, they called it then. It's known as Sterling now. And we had a big ranch there, cattle ranch. We run cattle and sheep all my life. And we finally had another 160 acres up on top of the hill which we farmed along with the meadow ground. So I was there for 25 years. I moved to Pocatello in 1930. I've been here ever since. And I've seen a terrific change in Pocatello. I think, if I remember right, there was 2 buildings at the university, where the university is now. And I know I've seen it keep growing and developing till now. We've got a 4-year university here, and it's great.
That is.
And then I've watched, I travel sometimes from Blackfoot down to Pocatello, and I see at night, I see more lights along the road between here and there than there used to be in Pocatello.
Isn't that?
When I first came. So.
And you both have been involved in the church and have seen a lot of changes in the church. You've been a stake president. You've served on the University Stake High Council. Now you're currently the patriarch at the
Pocatello West Stake.
Pocatello West Stake. Brother Smith has a funny story about the number of stakes that he's lived in, even though his address never changed. Would you tell us that story?
Yes, I lived in the same house on 4th Avenue for 55 years. And in that time, I have lived in the 6th Ward only. But I have lived in 4 different states without ever moving. And it has been quite a revelation to me to see the difference in the way that it has been, in the turnover and the way that things have been operated. Now, I've held most of the jobs through the priesthood quorums, from president of the deacons quorum clear on up to where I was high priest group leader for 5 years. I've also been president of the MIA, a young men's organization, the Sunday school, and my great interest has always been with the youth. And I was instrumental in organizing one of the greatest things that ever came out of Pocatello, and that was a boys' chorus. And we took 335 boys to Salt Lake City to sing in the Tabernacle on June conference. And we were so good that we were invited back the 2nd year, the only group that ever had 2 consecutive assignments to sing at June conference.
That's wonderful.
June conference was primarily an arm of the MIA, and it was the activity arm that
And of course there is no longer a June conference then. No. That has changed in the church too. In addition to your church callings and responsibilities, Brother Ward has also been a state senator. And would you tell us, we just have a little bit of time left, about your experience in not only with the church but in your political, you served on the school board and the state senate and...
Well, I served on the school board for 8 years, and I enjoyed that, although it was a lot of headaches goes along with it, but it was good. And then I was state senator for a term, and I was also chairman of served on the village board at Chubbuck for 17 years.
Oh.
And I was GOP chairman for about 5 years before I went to Senate. So I've been kind of connected with the community pretty much. I've earned a lot of beautiful, wonderful friends in this country.
Well, that's great.
I've enjoyed my life, although I've had problems in my life. I've lost 2 beautiful women. I've got the 3rd one who's wonderful too.
And you were telling me how many people were at your birthday celebration. Would you tell?
Well, I had one when I was 83. That's 3 years ago. There was 110 there. And that wasn't all of them. There was 79 that wasn't there. So I got a pretty good bunch of people around me with 3 families. And I had a birthday just last March, and my family, my wife, gave me a big party.
Well, that's
I had
great.
over 200 people come see me.
And we know that Brother Smith is well-loved and has a family that loves him also because he's the grandpa of our host, Rich Kirkham, and he takes good care of our boys and the rest of our family.
Brother Ward has been able to bless the lives of 3 women, but I had only one. We were married for 62 and a half years.
Oh,
And it's that I feel is quite an accomplishment.
that is. We'd like to thank these gentlemen for coming and being with us on Gateways, and we enjoy so much. We didn't have enough time to talk about all the things that have happened in the last 100 or so years in Idaho. Thank you so much, Brother Smith and Brother Ward, for coming and sharing yourselves with us.
We would really like to come back in 10 years.
All right. We'll set a date. That'll be great.
That's all for Gateways. We thank you for being with us and hope that you'll join us every week for news and information of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we'll say goodnight.